Hello everyone. Today we peel back the layers of ancient Chinese imperial power to examine the single most critical economic policy that turned the Qin state from a warring regional power into the first centralized empire in Chinese history, formal establishment of private land ownership, and the legendary imperial decree, Qian, Shou Shi Tian, which translates to ordering the common people to report their actual land holdings. This is not a dramatic legend or a fictional tale. Every detail we discuss today is rooted in strict, peer-reviewed historical records and mainstream academic consensus, free from folk myths and unsubstantiated rumors. To understand this revolutionary policy, we must travel back hundreds of years before Qin's unification to the era when the ancient well-field system dominated every corner of the Zhou dynasty and shaped the social and economic order of the warring states period. The well-field system, a feudal land institution that had prevailed for nearly a millennium, divided land into 9 equal squares, shaped like the Chinese character Jing, with 8 private plots surrounding one public plot owned by the nobility. Peasants worked the private plots for their own survival and labored on the public plot without pay to support the aristocratic class. This system tied peasants to the land, concentrated power in the hands of hereditary nobles, and severely limited the state's ability to collect taxes, recruit soldiers, and mobilize national resources. As warfare intensified during the warring states period, states that clung to the outdated well-field system fell behind in military and economic competition, creating an urgent need for systemic land reform. The Qin state, located on the western frontier, and long regarded as a barbaric state by Eastern kingdoms, embraced the most radical reforms under the leadership of Shang Yang in the mid-4th century BCE. Shang Yang's most groundbreaking move was the abolition of the well-field system and the opening of farm boundaries, formally allowing land transactions and laying the early groundwork for private land ownership. This reform broke the nobility's monopoly on land, rewarded farmers and soldiers with land for merit, boosted agricultural production, and turned Qin into a highly militarized, efficient state built on small peasant households. Yet, for over a century after Shang Yang's reforms, private land ownership remained a regional policy within Qin's borders, not a universal law across all Chinese states, and land ownership records were chaotic, especially in newly conquered territories. In 221 BCE, Qin Shi Huang defeated the last of the 6 eastern kingdoms and unified China, establishing the first unified multi-ethnic, centralized imperial dynasty in Chinese history. The unification of territory, writing, currency, weights and measures was widely celebrated, but few modern viewers realize that the empire's long-term stability depended entirely on a stable economic foundation, and land was the most vital resource in the agrarian ancient world. Immediately after unification, the Qing court faced a fatal dilemma. Millions of people across the former 6 states held land through diverse conflicting systems with countless hidden land plots, unclear boundaries, and unreported acreage. The central government could not accurately calculate national tax revenue, could not fairly allocate corvée labor and military service, and could not prevent local nobles from hiding land and defying imperial authority. 5 years after unification, in the 31st year of Qin Shi Huang's reign, 216 BCE, the emperor issued a decree that shook the foundations of ancient Chinese society, Qian, Shou Shi Tian. The term Qian Shou was Qin's official name for all common people, emphasizing that this policy applied to every land-holding household, regardless of social status, regional origin, or former noble connections. The core rules of the decree were brutally clear and strictly enforced. All landowners, including small peasant farmers, new military merit holders, and remaining landlord groups, were required to voluntarily report the exact number of boundaries and locations of their land to local government offices. Local officials would verify the reports, register the information in official imperial records, and issue legal recognition of private land rights. In return, landowners paid a fixed land tax based on their reported acreage, fulfilling their financial obligation to the empire. This decree marked the first time in Chinese history that a central government used national legislation to formally legalize and protect private land ownership across the entire country, replacing the fragmented feudal land systems with a unified imperial land regime. We must dig deeper into the political logic behind this policy to grasp its true significance. First, the decree solved the empire's most pressing fiscal crisis. Before land registration, tax collection relied on rough estimates and local noble reports, leading to massive tax evasion and insufficient state revenue. By forcing universal self-reporting and official verification, the Qing court gained a precise nationwide land registry, turning hidden land into taxable assets, and ensuring a steady flow of funds for imperial governance, military garrisons, and large-scale projects like road construction and frontier defense. Second, the policy crushed the power of remaining regional aristocrats. For centuries, Eastern nobles had hidden vast land holdings, evaded taxes, and maintained private armies, defying central control. The land registration decree stripped them of their ability to conceal resources, forcing them to submit to imperial taxation and supervision, weakening their ability to rebel. Third, the decree rewarded loyal peasants and military meritocrats, consolidating popular support for the new empire. Small farmers who had long worked land without legal protection now received official recognition of their property rights, giving them a stake in the empire's stability. Soldiers who earned merit in unification wars received formal land titles, turning them into loyal land-owning subjects of the emperor. Fourth, the policy standardized agricultural management across the empire, promoting agricultural productivity and economic integration. Uniform land rights and tax rules encouraged farmers to invest in their land, improve farming techniques, and expand cultivation, turning scattered agricultural regions into a cohesive economic system supporting the centralized state. Mainstream historical scholarship confirms that this policy was not a sudden invention, but a logical extension of Qin's centuries-old reform tradition. Shang Yang's reforms had started the shift from public to private land, but Qin's unification made national implementation possible. The Ziqian, Shouzi, Shitian decree completed this transition, turning de facto private land ownership into de jure protected rights. Historical records show that, after the decree took effect, local governments across the empire set up specialized offices to handle land registration, with strict penalties for false reporting or concealment, including heavy fines, forced labor, and land confiscation. This strict enforcement ensured the policy's effectiveness, making Qin's land system the most advanced and efficient in ancient China at that time. However, like all radical reforms, this land policy carried hidden contradictions that would later contribute to Qin's rapid collapse. While legalizing private ownership protected small farmers, it also legalized land transactions and mergers, opening the door to large-scale land annexation. Wealthy landlords and merchants began buying land from impoverished peasants, creating a growing gap between rich and poor. Peasants who lost their land became tenant farmers, paying high rents to landlords, while still owing taxes and corvée to the empire, doubling their economic burden. Additionally, the empire's relentless demand for tax, revenue, and labor led some local officials to extort peasants, exaggerate land acreage, and impose excessive taxes, turning a stabilizing reform into a source of public resentment. These contradictions did not surface immediately, but they simmered beneath the surface of Qin's seemingly unshakable empire, eventually erupting into large-scale uprisings that ended the dynasty's short but transformative reign. The legacy of Qin's private land system and Zhiqian, Shouzi Shitian, extends far beyond the Qin dynasty itself. This reform created the basic framework of private land ownership that dominated Chinese feudal society for the next 2,000 years, shaping tax systems, social structures, and rural economies until the modern era. It proved that a centralized empire could not survive without a unified, legally protected land system, setting a template for all subsequent Chinese dynasties. For historians, this policy is a masterclass in how economic institutions shape political power. A single land decree did not just change land ownership, it built an empire, unified a civilization, and defined the path of Chinese history. It also serves as a timeless warning. Even the most brilliant institutional reforms can collapse if they ignore the balance between state power and popular livelihood, between legal order and social justice. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient China, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic history. See you next time.